Jaya Radha Madhava
Oh.
Kunja Bihari Jaya
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Pijana Balava Givanadhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Jana Balava Givanadhari
Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jai Go Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gora Hari Bo Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Radhika Raman Giriju Ki Jai Ho Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Mahavandanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gora Tavashe Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'd like to offer my heartfelt Puspanjali to the lotus feet of my Harinam Diksha Guru, Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. Second of all, to my Bhajan Shiksha Guru, Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, to Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, and to our entire Guru Parampara, and especially to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and his Madhurya Kadambini. Also, yesterday was a very, very holy day, special day. It was appearance day of Nityananda Shakti, Janavidevi, Ramachandra Shakti, Sita Thakurani, and to a very exalted Gaudiya Vaishnava, Madhu Pandit, who was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. So we're begging for their mercy and hoping that we can attain one day the essence of their moods of service, which is completely selfless. Prem Seva, Sita Thakurani to Lord Ramachandra, Janavidevi to Nityananda, and Madhu Pandit to Radha Gopinath. So today we're finishing up the fourth text of Madhurya Kadambini. And we'll also be moving into, hopefully, the fifth text of the Madhurya Kadambini in the third shower. Now the third shower is very large and it's very, very important. And this fifth text we'll be moving into is the last part. So we spent quite a long time on the eradication of anarthas. What are anarthas? Why they come? How to get rid of them? Like this. So today we're finishing up the fourth text. And we're talking, last time, we talked about the eradication of the anarthas from aparads. And this is the most severe anartha. It's the one that is the most difficult block, because anarthas are blockages in our path of bhakti, in our heart, make our heart stone-like, especially anarthas coming from aparads. And we found out that that anartha is not completely eradicated until we attain prem, and not just prem, until we actually become an associate of the Lord. And we enter into Leela, and we have direct relationship and darshan of Bhagavan. At that time, then there's no possibility, not one speck of possibility of this anartha ever sticking his head up again. Like that. Before that, very little, but this is when it's absolutely, absolutely eradicated. Now, this last part of text 4 talks about the anarthas coming from pious and impious activities, and the anarthas coming from improper practice of bhakti. Now, these anarthas and their results are much easier to eradicate. They go much quicker. So that's a relief. So first of all, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about the anarthas coming from pious and impious activities. And so as we know, the anarthas coming from impious activities are absorption in the 5 kleshas, the 5 types of suffering. We talked about that in the beginning of text 4. And that's the first one, the first kind of suffering is suffering coming from avidya, ignorance, plain old ignorance. The second one comes from asmita, that's false ego. Number 3 is, what's it called? Let's see if I have the names right. Just, my memory's not always the best. Here, let's see. Yeah, the third one is rag, and this is not spiritual rag. This is attachment, and this is material attachment. And this is attachment to the means to attain enjoyment, or the means to get rid of distress. That kind of attachment. And one becomes very upset when one already has a lot and one doesn't get more. This kind of absorption, not greed really, wanting more and not being happy, this kind of suffering. You have $1 million trillion and you're still not satisfied. Okay? That kind of attachment. Or else you've gotten rid of so much distress, but there's still, it's not, the temperature, instead of being 25 degrees, it's 26 degrees. You just can't quite get rid of all suffering in your life. This kind of attachment. And the fourth kind of suffering was hatred. Hatred, just plain old hatred, envy like this. And people, so many of us, are very absorbed in this? You hate, there's many forms, this is very subtle. You hate that person because they have more than you. Or you hate that person because he said something not nice about you behind your back. Or even just, this is something that's very common, you just hate the weather, which is something very abstract. You hate the weather because it's too hot. You see, this kind of not being conscious, very unconscious. So these hatreds are blocking our bhakti, and we get absorbed in this, and when we get absorbed in how horrible the weather is, I can't live here, I better go live somewhere else. You see, like this. And the fifth kind of suffering, this one is abhinivesh, material absorption, so much absorbed in our body, and being terrified of death. It's there, we may not realize it, but because we're absorbed in the body, and the happiness and distress of the body, who I am, I'm an American woman, I'm this, I'm that, you know. I joined the movement before you, I'm senior to you. You see, this is not bhakti. Bhakti is something else in the heart. Bhakti isn't when you joined the movement, when you would, started. No, bhakti is whether you actually have love and affection for Krishna. You may have come to the movement way before someone else, and you may not have any bhakti because you have too much hate and lust and all this in your heart. So this kind of absorption, and then being actually deep down in terrified of death. And that's the all-pervading, biggest fear actually for everyone, unless they take to bhakti. If one takes to bhakti, then we finally know the process of purification. We know where we're going to go if we practice bhakti, eventually, but we know if things are going to get better. It's not going to be the way it was. So with the practice of bhakti, then these 5 absorptions in these suffering, then they get removed. And also the anartha coming from pious activities, that's just absorption of material happiness and sense gratification. That's the anartha. So you have the pious and impious. One is all this suffering and you're completely absorbed in it. And the other is material sense gratification. You're completely absorbed in that. But these 2 results, these kind of anarthas, they are eradicated when one actually becomes attached to Sri Hari. You see like this? So that's in the stage of ashakti. So this is way before prem. We have, what was it, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha with Bhajan Kriya, Anartha. We had Nishta, we had Ruchi, and Ashakti. So in Ashakti, this anartha is absolutely annihilated. Because why? Because if one becomes attached to Hari, immediately, automatically, there's no attachment to these other, to sense gratification. It's just completely gone, automatically, like this. You're no longer going to fall prey to this kind of attraction of Maya. Her tricks, Maya's tricks. So then the other anartha, which is the anarthas coming from bhakti, improper practice of bhakti, which is, labh, which is material gain, what was it, pratista, wanting recognition, and puja, wanting to be worshipped. Remember, these kind of unhealthy desires that come from the impractice of practice of bhakti, because when one's practicing bhakti, one starts to become beautiful in all ways. And then persons start to become attracted to you, and they want to follow you, and they want to give you things like this. And so one has to be extremely careful. That's why humility is the only answer. One has to be very humble, understanding I'm very fallen. Any good qualities I have are coming from my Guru and Krishna. Because if you knew before I became a devotee, you would understand. I had no good qualities. And even if we were born devotees in this lifetime, because we have knowledge now, we understand that in our past lives, we have been everything and done everything. Unless we're someone coming straight from the spiritual world. That's something different. But for most of us as conditioned souls, we're not descending from the spiritual world. So we've had many, many past lives that were not pious lives. So we're very fallen, even if we're born devotees in this life. Because we haven't gone back home, back to Godhead yet. We're not necessarily weeping when we chant Hare Krishna. Our hairs are not standing on end like this. So there's obviously some anarthas there, some impediments to bhakti manifesting in our heart fully. So, so when we're practicing bhakti, we have to also give all respects to others. This verse, Trinadapi Sunichina Tarodapi Suina, we should be very tolerant. If those are giving us so much fame, we give it to Krishna. We give it to our Guru. Actually, fame is meant for Guru and Krishna. And also respect everything. And if anyone starts to glorify us, immediately we should give it to our Guru and to Krishna. Oh, this is due to my Guru. This is his qualities, that he's so kindly given something to me, a little something, so that I can pass it on. We should give all credit to Sri Guru. Now, if we do this, then we can progress in bhakti, right? And this particular anartha is annihilated at the stage of completely, absolutely in ruchi. It's the first one to be absolutely. And it began in the stage of bhajana kriya, you see, because it only comes from improper practice of bhakti, bhajana kriya. Whereas the other ones, like the anarthas coming from sinful and pious and impious, that's from way back. And offenses may be from way. But the improper practice of bhakti, that comes from our practice of bhakti. But in the stage of ruchi, when one actually gets a taste for bhajan comes, automatically the taste for these other things is annihilated. So that you can understand, if you really have attained the stage of ruchi, you will not have any taste for pratista, for wanting honor, for wanting to be worshipped. You won't. So if you have any of that, even if we're honest with ourselves, we see a slight bit of that, we understand, I have not attained ruchi, that's for sure. What to speak of a shakti, bhav, prem. We have not. You see, because that's the criterion. So these anarthas, they're annihilated at different stages. But we must practice bhajan. If we don't practice bhajan, and we become lax in our bhajan, and we see that happening to many devotees, they're very this is the stage of anishtita bhakti. Before we're even anishta, what happens? We're very enthusiastic, then we become very unenthusiastic. Actually, it's harder than I thought it would be. And this is why, at this stage, this is a very dangerous stage, actually, anartha nivritti, bhajan kriya, sadhu sangha. And that's why one must always have the association of sadhus, real sadhus. Not sadhus who have as many, if not more, anarthas than we have. That's good. It's better to have that than complete materialists or atheists. That's good. But one must have association, higher association, especially Satgurus, Sat Vaishnavas. And if one doesn't have it externally, one must have it through the Shastras, through the bhajans. They're always with us. Rupa Goswami is here. You go to his samadhi, you pray to him, you sing to him, you beg for his mercy. He will give. You can have his sadhu sangha. You can have the sadhu sangha of any Vaishnava from any time. Jayadev Goswami, way before that. We can have his association. Or to speak of Lord Brahma, our Adi Guru, Narada. It's there, and we must have this. If we don't, we will become weak, and what happens when we're weak and we become lax in our bhajan? What happens? Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur has said very clearly, and we can see it all around us. We will lose our taste for bhajan. And our taste for engaging in sense gratification will increase. And we will leave the path of bhakti. It may be dormant in us, we kind of like it. We might come, like once a year, you go to the temple for Janmashtami. Right? And you like da-da-da-da-da. But all year long. You're engaged in, it depends. If you're a renunciate, well, you're just doing whatever, you know. If you're single, you're off doing what, climbing mountains and having dogs and having girlfriends maybe. Or if you're married, you're just absorbed in, you know, in your yacht boating around with your family and whatever it is. Isn't it? And this happens to devotees who are not careful. This is why Vaidhi Bhakti is so important. When one comes to Sri Guru, usually we're not on the level of being able to engage in Raganuga Bhakti, spontaneous, because we aren't spontaneous attracted to Krishna. We don't have ruchi yet. You see, we don't. So, we take the order of Sri Guru as our life and soul. And we also hear from him, there's two things. We want to please our Guru. We're grateful that he's picked us up out of the cycle of birth and death, that terrifying fear of death. Going down to the hellish planets. He's saved us. And he's given us the path of bhakti. So we're grateful. So we want to repay him. We want to do what he wants. But also, he's given us knowledge. If you don't do this, that terrifying, well, no, actually it's different. For a devotee, they don't see Yamaraj. They don't. Devotees don't see Yamaraj. That's in the 5th text. But we don't get praying. We just stay going around. Maybe a dog, maybe a pig, maybe a lion, maybe a human being around eternally, they say, until we get another chance in a human form of life to meet a sadhu and to take his instructions seriously and practice bhakti. We'll be stuck in samsara, like this, for eternity almost. So we need to take it very seriously. The bhakti that's been given to us. You know, even if we have no taste, we have no desire, somehow or other we have to use whatever little strength we have to chant Hare Krishna, to try and follow the 4 regulative principles, you know, whatever we can do. And even if we can't really do that, at least we wish we could. We try and keep this, and we try and at least chant a few Hare Krishnas every day. We have to really hang on to the practice of bhakti, bhajana kriya. If not, of course, Sri Guru is there. He's always got his loving eye, and he will try and help us. He will. You always give it, but we have free will. We have independence. And if our anarthas have not been eradicated, it's even futile to think that we can attain Bhagavan. We cannot. If we have anarthas, we cannot attain Bhagavan. This is many now new agey kind of religious sects are popping up. This is the time for cheating gurus, cheating religious practices, cheating. This is in Kali Yuga, it's a time of cheating. And so you may go to a Satguru, and due to our weaknesses, we can't stay with him. You know, at least we should wish we could. We should be always offering some kind of gratitude in our heart, even if we're absorbed. But what happens usually, Srimad Bhagavatam talks about this in the 5th canto. Sukadeva Goswami is telling this to Maharaj Pariksit. What happens? One goes to the imposter gurus, because they will give you sense gratification, which is what we are so desiring, because we've been in the material world practicing sense gratification and desiring it for time immemorial, and we will become degraded. And it says in the 5th canto, we're just reading about it, that when one comes to the human form of life, and one's coming from the lower species, one comes to the animal species, if one is in the mode of goodness, one's come from a cow birth. If one is in the mode of passion, one's coming from a lion. And if one's coming from in the mode of ignorance, one is coming from monkeys. So Darwin's theory is almost right, but not quite right. We're the descendants of monkeys. And what does that mean? Lower than Sudras. That means only real interest is in lust. And lust, so you take it, I live in Vrindavan. You look outside, I look out my window, I see the monkeys. they're very expert in lust, sex life. That's all they want to do. It's, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending to the utmost. Really, really. It's so low. And so the Bhagavatam explains that what happens is when we become so absorbed on this level, human beings on this level, all they're doing is looking at the faces of others and having others look at their faces, and they cannot think of anything else. Oh, I want to look, isn't it? You see, wasn't it? Now, there's so much propaganda to look beautiful. Of course, there's so many different standards of beautiful these days. But anyhow, the point is you want to look attractive to everyone, especially the opposite sex, isn't it? And vice versa. That is the main propaganda going on. This is Kali Yuga, this is the cheaters and the cheated. And then you can go to some guru who will tell you, oh, this is fine. This is just fine. If you like it, do it. You'll still, just believe in me, I'm God. I can produce a few ashes in my palm, or I can do this or that. So many cheaters, cheating. So we have to be very careful. Bhakti, spiritual life, is a razor's edge. We're so lucky we've come to the path of Bhakti, especially Gaudiya Vaishnavism, especially Rupanuga Vaishnavism. We have to take it seriously and understand how rare it is. It's not a cheap thing. And it's actually not very difficult. But it's only not difficult depending on who we associate with. If we associate with all these sense inquiry, it will be very difficult. Very, very difficult. But if we associate with those who are actually experiencing this higher taste naturally, like Rupa Goswami, the 6 Goswamis, there are Shiksha Gurus, and if we honestly study their lives, they're much more happy than any of these gross materialists. The gross materialists are miserable. They get a beautiful woman, and then their friend runs off with her, and then they're miserable. Isn't it? You never get your sense gratification. That's Maya. Maya, oh, here's the Rasgula, take it. So you take it and pah! That's her duty. That's the material world. That's the facts of life. Let's be honest. But what does Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Prabhupada, Gurudev Bhakti, Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj, what are they saying? You just chant Hare Krishna. Chant Hare Krishna. Try to become free from offenses like this. And chant and be happy. Take Mahaprasadam. Prabhupada, I just read a quote from Prabhupada. He said, just eat Mahaprasadam. Eat, eat, eat. You're so low, you're so ignorant, you can't do anything. But just eat, and you become, just like a food can be infected with poison or something, and you become diseased. Well, this is infected with Krishna consciousness, so you'll become infected with Krishna just by taking Mahaprasadam, It's so simple, actually. We always offer our foodstuffs to Krishna. We never take boga, ever. Even if you're leaving out, way over there. Excuse me, we're having... Haribo, excuse us. We had to stop because there was a very loud microphone going by downstairs. This is Vrindavana, Don't exactly know what they were advertising. Anyhow, back to my point. Let's see, where was I? Kind of lost my train of thought there. Oh, we were talking about the material world and the cheaters and the cheated. So we need to take it. Oh yes, so what Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and the happiness that they are feeling and that they're offering to us. And if anyone with any honesty reads the writings of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, the 6 Goswamis and their followers, and with open heart, you can see the happiness that they're experiencing and that they're going to offer to us. If we follow their path, which is not difficult, it's such a superior, incomparable happiness. Krishna Lila, if you even dive just a little bit into Krishna Lila, there's no suffering like the material world. It's all pain. It's all Bhav. Even the separation is Bhav, it's praying. It's a different kind of separation. It's a suffering in love. One's only completely absorbed in love and affection like that. And how they were automatically, not forcing, they weren't sleeping because they were too much absorbed in happiness and bliss in their seva, as Rupa Manjari, Lavanga Manjari, like this. And Raghunath Das Goswami is so absorbed as Rati Manjari at Radhakund. A tiger comes beside him, 2 tigers. He doesn't even notice. And they, of course, because he's on such a, there's no envy at that level. There's no fear. Won't that be a relief? That'll be such a relief. No fear, no anxiety. Nobody in the material world can offer you that. No bogus guru, nobody. They say they can, but they cannot offer that. They cannot save you at the time of death. Not possible. And they cannot give you complete, ultimate material sense gratification. Not possible. Our bodies, the body is like, it's so weak. It cannot. We can't even, I hate to say it, we can't even have sex life the way the monkeys do. They can do it, it's amazing. Or the pigeons, their bodies are made for that. You see? And we're just speaking of eating. Elephants can eat so much, Sleeping bears can sleep, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, the lions, The human, but we cannot. So limited. And it's not happiness. It's not happiness. But we read. Sanatana Goswami, we've told this story before, when there was a Brahmin who had to get his daughter married, and somehow Lord Shiva blessed him send him to Vrindavan to meet Sanatana Goswami. He said, he can help you. And this Brahmin comes and meets Sanatana Goswami, who is just in a loincloth. He has nothing. He's sitting there chanting Hare Krishna. And the Brahmin tells him his story and asks him, to please help him. And Sanatana Goswami says, well, I don't know. And they said, oh yeah, I have a touchstone over there in the garbage. So this Brahmin goes and gets a touchstone, and sure enough, whatever you touch, if it's metal, it turns to gold. And he's going back, and then he thinks, well, this was in the garbage. He must have something much better. And so he comes back to Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami says, yes, I do have something much better. But you'll have to throw that touchstone in the Jamuna forever. So this Brahmin is very fortunate. He has Sukriti. He throws the Chintamani stone in the Jamuna, and Sanatana Goswami gives him Harinam, Premanam, and he becomes a pure devotee. And he actually attains the topmost wealth, which is Prem Sevata Jugal Kishore Radha and Krishna. Eternal, no death, no fear. The only fear is, oh dear, they might disappear a little bit. But even in that, then you're always remembering. It's a different thing. So we should be very careful in our practice of bhakti. So that ends the fourth text of the third shower. Now we're moving into the fifth text of the third shower. This is the end of Anarjana Vritti. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says near the end of this part, that this part, this third shower, is so important. We should study it again and again and again. We should know it thoroughly. Because why is our bhakti blocked? Why is it that we're not chanting Hare Krishna? I've been trying to chant Hare Krishna for 50 years. And I'm still not crying when I chant Hare Krishna. My hairs are not standing on end. Why is this? What is the problem? Well, this fifth text starts to explain it. This first part, 5a, explains what happens. That the holy name, Sri Nam Prabhu, withholds its mercy from offenders. From non-offenders, he does not. And the example that's given is Ajamil. How is it, Ajamil? He chanted the holy name, and very shortly he went back. The Vishnudus came and got him. The second time they came and took him to Vaikuntha. How is that? He was such a sinful person. But as explained in the Bhagavatam, he was not an offensive person. And he actually chanted Namabas. He didn't chant even Sudanam. Namabas. But Namabas is so powerful. It's like the sun. When the sun comes up, it dissipates the darkness. So even a slight chanting of the holy name, if it's not offensive, even though it's Namabas, all our sins will be eradicated. Like this. And so Ajamil, he had been very sinful. He had been raised as a pure Brahmin, but due to his past, somehow or other, he became attached to a prostitute. He had many children with her. But it's said in the Bhagavatam that he was so absorbed in his wife and his children, he didn't have time to be offensive. He never criticized sadhus. He just didn't have time. He was too materially absorbed in lust, like this. He didn't have time. And he had 10 children, and very mercifully, very fortunately, he named the last child Narayan. So when he was passing, and the Yamadutas, the scary Yamadutas, we can't even imagine. Even the picture probably doesn't do it. I mean, they're scary. The Yamadutas are scary. They came to take him. But the Vishnudutas immediately showed up. Why? Because he was not he had chanted the name of the Lord. And he'd even remembered the Lord. Even though he'd been chanting for his son, he remembered both. And the Vishnudutas explained to the Yamadutas that no, he's ours, he's not yours. You can't take him. He's our property now. Like this. And then they spoke Harikatha, the Vishnudutas, explaining to the Yamadutas the potency of the holy name. Like this. And then it says, after Ajamil heard this Harikatha, he became purified. And he didn't pass away at that time. He actually completely left his situation, went to Hardwar, and very short time, because he took shelter of a temple, guru, like this, and he practiced bhakti. Short time, the Vishnudutas came for him again and took him to Vaikuntha. Now, the question is, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur brings it up, how is it that he was able to do this, that this happened for him? Whereas there's so many sincere devotees who take shelter of Satguru, and this isn't happening for them. Why is that? And Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains that because there's two kinds of devotees. Those who are offenseless, like Ajamil was offenseless. So there's only two stages for them. One is you chant the holy name, and you go to Vaikuntha. And those who are offensive, you have to go through Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya Nartanavritti, Nishta, Ruchi, Ashakti, Bhav, Prem, etc. Like this. That is the will of the Lord. That when one is offensive. So we can understand we must have been offensive, and we have been offensive, because we're having to go through these stages. We haven't just been able to chant Hare Krishna. As soon as Prabhupada gave me Harinam, why is it that I didn't, after a short time, go back home, back to Godhead? Because obviously I'm an offensive person. And so what happens? Sri Nam, who is a person, withholds the mercy. Even though she has the Shakti, the power to let that person go back home, she doesn't give it. She doesn't show it. Because she's displeased with offenders. Srinam becomes displeased with offenders. It's a serious matter. We don't really think about personal, the personal aspect of the Lord and the whole world around us, most of us. Most of us were raised very, very impersonal, especially in the West. Now, in bygone days, even the Aborigines in Australia, or the original Indians in America or in South America, they were more personal. They knew about the spirits and the trees, and it was different. different. It wasn't, of course, Krishna consciousness, but it was more, the whole world was much more personal. Nowadays, it's completely impersonal. There's no personality anywhere. That tree is just dead. That's why it's fun if we cut down all the trees and make, pornography with the books, who cares? It's just a dead tree. When I was distributing books once, amazing, the mentality. I was in the Denver airport distributing books, and actually this person was a Christian who came up to me, and I was trying to try and encourage her to take a book of Srila Prabhupada. And she was really, and we were talking about killing cows and eating meat, and I was becoming very frustrated because she just could not. And I said, you mean to tell me there's no difference between that Coke machine over there, a machine where you get Coke, and a cow? Just no, there's no difference. Really? And she was being sincere. Unbelievable. Impersonalism. It's just so much ignorance. Because the desire for sense gratification is so intense. And one's raised with that, if you're raised as a meat eater and you develop that taste, then you want it. You see? And you don't want it to be wrong. You don't want it that you can't have it. Like this. So it's, until one gets the mercy of the sadhus, of Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas, then one can be. And if we fortunately had it even from birth, that means we were very fortunate in our last life. We got this mercy to be able to come up to a much higher platform and understand there is an Atma in every single atom. What to speak of every single living entity. There's an Atma there. Their living is personal, like this. The trees, especially in Vrindavan, these are sadhus doing their bhajan. And around the world, it's impious persons who are getting punished. They just stand naked for thousands of years in the rain, in the wind, the heat. You see? It's all personal. The world is personal, actually. So Sri Nam is a person. We should understand that. When we're chanting, we should be very loving with Sri Nam. We should be very careful with Sri Nam. We should be trying to please Sri Nam. And we should understand that Sri Nam, there is no one more powerful. Because Sri Nam is who? Radha and Krishna. This is the Ladini Shakti of Krishna, who is one of his influences, is the most powerful, right? Well, where does this power come from? It comes from Srimati Radhika. This is Sri Nam. What to speak of? They're the most loving, the most closest friend we have. They want the best for us. What to speak of? They're the most compassionate. Their mercy will come down to even us, the most fallen, the descendants of the monkeys. Do we even really stop to consider who is Sri Nam, what we have been given by our Sri Guru, by Sri Vaishnavas? Do we take it seriously, this jewel that can give us everything? We don't need anything but Sri Nam. Nothing. We're so conditioned to think, I need money, I need this, I need that. But this is proven by the 6 Goswamis. Nowadays it's a bit more difficult, but in those days they lived under a different tree every night. They ate a few little chickpeas or a little bit of buttermilk. They didn't, they needed nothing but Sri Nam. Nowadays our gurus, they also are on that level, but so that we can relate to them, they show a little bit of a different example. Like Srila Prabhupada, he accepted, he was wearing clothes and he was taking prasadam and this and that, but he didn't need it, actually. But I don't think we could have related to him if he'd come giving the example of Rupa Goswami. So he came in a way that we could relate to. And then he could tell us the truth. He could introduce us to the 6 Goswamis and tell us this is the truth. This is the fruit, We give all up this material sense gratification. Give it all up and surrender to Sri Guru, Gauranga, Radha, to Sri Nam. And we take shelter of Sri Nam. And we give up our offenses to Sri Nam, to Sri Guru, to Vaishnavas, to Bhakti. We give it all up. And the happiness that's awaiting, but the thing is, even that we give up. We give up all desire for happiness. We give up all desires except to make our beloved Sri Nam, Sri Guru, Sri Vaishnava, Gauranga, Radha and Krishna happy. We don't care if we're happy. We only want them to be happy. Then finally we're coming to the pure bhakti. Before that's like mixed, right? Mixed. And now finally when we have no desire for our own happiness, then the real treasure comes our way. That's the treasure that Sanatana Goswami gave to that Brahmin. This is what our gurus are giving to us, that opportunity. But we have to actually, we cannot do it on our own, but we can pray for it. We can pray from the bottom of our hearts, oh, Prabhupada, please, please, I'm so weak. You know, my tongue is so voracious, my mind is so uncontrollable. You know, please, please, please remove all this. Let me have no other desire than to make you happy. Let me not care if I'm happy. Let me want to just make you happy. That's the beginning, Sri Guru. And from that, it will come to all the Vaishnavas. It will come to Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Because who are we? We're the servant of the Vaishnavas are the servants of Gopi Bhartar, who is no other than actually Gauranga Mahaprabhu, the combined form of Radha and Krishna. You see? And Gopi Bhartar is the maintainer of the gopis. So Krishna, who is maintained by the gopis and who maintains the gopis. It's their prem. They maintain each other. Like this. That is our destination. And the amount of... See, the thing is, at this point, we don't want to talk about how much happiness we'll get there because we don't even care about our own happiness by that time. You see? But it's described by Rupa Goswami and everyone that kind of happiness that comes from selfless service, prem seva, is indescribable. Indescribable. There's no other happiness that can even touch it. And we can all, anyone who has Sri Guru in any form or another, Sri Vaishnavas, we've probably served a little somewhere, a little selflessly to them. And the happiness we felt at that time, we don't forget. It's completely different. It has nothing to do with the material world. Nothing. I know in my life, I may have talked about this before, I don't have the best memory, but in my life, there was an example of this for me, because I was a book distributor for 17 years in ISKCON. And as we know, Prabhupada was happy with just learning to love Krishna, anyone, but he was also very happy with books being distributed or printed or any way of helping spread the Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement. You could be the cook, you could be anybody, but I was a book distributor. And so when I would be out, let's say in the Los Angeles airport, and I was really tired, it's really smoky, it's really, dirty, it's, noisy, but you're distributing Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and you're just going along. The happiness that actually I felt at that time, I felt so close to Srila Prabhupada, even to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I can't say Radha and Krishna, but it was, it's what allowed me to be able to do it day after day, isn't it? Because there was just a certain kind of reciprocation that I was not able to get if I decided to do what I wanted to do for Prabhupada, so I could be happy. Because it wasn't a material happiness walking around the airport, that's for sure, talking to all these strange people, No, I come from a mountain climbing family. I'd much rather be out in the, you know, in the mountains, you know, walking around in the beautiful sun with the nice green trees and beautiful lakes, you know, and chanting Hare Krishna, my japa mala, peaceful. Oh yeah, that would have been my choice, you know, much better. But no. So when we give up our own personal happiness, and we try and do what Mahaprabhu is asking us to do, and it's coming down through Swarup Damodar Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Vishnu Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta, our whole Guru Varg. They're asking us to chant Hare Krishna, but to help them in their mission to save all the conditioned souls. That's part of the package. Because you could say, well, what about Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj? What about Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj? But their chanting was saving the whole world. And look at who's his one disciple, Gorkishore Das Babaji's one, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, how he served the Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement like this, you know. Jagannath Das Babaji, who did he inspire? Who was considered his Shiksha Guru? Bhaktivinoda Thakur. They were not doing this because of a material attachment to not going out into the world and helping preach to the conditioned souls. No, this is their mission from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be a pure Babaji, to set the example of who a real Babaji is. And Gorkishore Das Babaji has inspired the whole world. His picture's on every altar, everywhere. And he's famous for singing, you know, Premamai Radhe Radhe, Asasaki Siramani Radhe Radhe. That is the topmost Maha Mantra. You know, going here, going there, Radhe Radhe, showing the example. You know? And he wasn't eating, he wasn't sleeping. When he got hungry, he took some mud from the Jamuna. Can we do that? You know, like this. So we have to think about what we have to focus. Okay, I'm now hopefully in Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Nartya Nivritti. I cannot imitate. It's not possible for me to sleep 1 hour a night, for me to only eat a couple of chickpeas. No, that's not possible. I may be able to do it for a short time, but I can't. But we should have our goal. That is the goal. When I come to the level where that is automatic, you don't even try for it. That's, what do you call it? Viyog. No, Vairagya. It's Vairagya. You know, which is, that's true Vairagya. It's not monkey Vairagya. It's not artificial, forcing yourself. True Vairagya is Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. They had so much higher taste, they had no taste. No taste. Zero taste. Like this. But we'll never attain that unless we, right now, we practice our bhakti, our sadhan bhajan, and we force ourselves to do it. Even when we don't want to do it. When we want to do it, that's one thing. But we force ourselves to do it. And if we can't do that, at least we wish we could. We don't forget our goal. We set our goal, which is to give up sense gratification, become free from this material consciousness, you know, for our own happiness, and make our goal attaining Prem. Attaining the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika, who is Prem Guru, and assisting her in her Prem Seva to Sri Krishna. We have to at least make the goal and understand it's possible to get by their mercy. And we wish that we could practice so that they would be attracted. We wish that we could do it. Just that wishing, Srila Prabhupada has said, will make us successful. Because Sri Guru and Krishna, they have the power to remove all our narcissisms just so quickly, so easily. Even the offenses they can do. But we have to, with our own free will, our own independence, we have to pick the path of bhakti. And if it's hard, we still have to wish we could. We have not to become opposed, and we have to give up offenses. That we have to do. And if we find ourselves with bad habits of still committing offenses, we have to wish we didn't, and we have to pray for them to take away that bad habit of whatever the offenses are that we are doing. We're, let's say, we're not, we're thinking the glories of the holy name or imagination. Or we're thinking that the Shastras are just made by some sages who wanted some kind of honor. Or we're criticizing, the Vaishnavas. Like this. We have to wish, oh please, we have to be honest. Oh no, there it comes again. There's that bad habit again. Please take it away. That is our sadhana bhajan now. And if we if we really, really stick to this, in a very short time, all of our offenses, all of our anarthas can be eradicated. Although it is a gradual process for us aparadhis, it's gradual. It's not like those who aren't unoffensive. Theirs is quick. But we have to be willing to do it. That is, okay, we try to chant a fixed number of rounds every day. We try. Even if we can't, then we wish we could. Like this. We try to only honor Mahaprasadam, no Bhoga. We try our best to follow the 4 regular principles. We try. There's not so, Mahaprabhu is not given such a difficult process. And the holy name is watching us. And it's very interesting because we have a lot of mercy. Because the second, I think it's 5b, talks about how even if you still have some offense there, but you're chanting and you're doing your bhajan, you will not see Yamaraj and you will not go to hell. You're saved from Yamaraj. You haven't got prem. The fruit of prem you won't get, but you will not see Yamaraj. How fortunate. We will not see Yamaraj. No. Should we stop? Oh, I see. Let's stop. Sorry, we got interrupted again by a huge, loud microphone that went by. It's a political campaign now that's going on, I found out. So what we need to understand is because we don't, at this stage, have rag, is spontaneous attachment for Krishna and for chanting the holy name, and we're mercifully being engaged by our Guru Varg in Vaidhi Bhakti, but they've given us a special Vaidhi Bhakti. It's not the Vaidhi Bhakti that you read about like in Ramanuja Sampradaya and the other Sampradayas. We would never be able to follow that. So strict, the rules and regulations. We're beginning very, very easy Vaidhi Bhakti, actually. And if we follow it, Mahaprabhu promises that we'll be able to enter Raganuga Bhakti very quickly and very easily. It will come. If we just follow simple rules and regulations like this. And one of the things in Vaidhi Bhakti that is the motivating force, unfortunately or fortunately, is fear. Because what happens is the fear is there of, well, if I don't do this, what's going to happen to me? You see what I mean? And what will happen to me is I may get a lower birth. I may be born as a dog or a monkey. That doesn't set. And we get enough information that that's not going to be a very pleasant experience for us. To go from the consciousness of a human being into the consciousness of a dog is very painful. It's such a limited consciousness. You see? Now, before we met Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas, we didn't know that. Like myself, when I was a hippie, I would see cats and they thought, oh wow, they're just laying around, they're so happy, they're in the sun. Oh gosh, I think my next life I want to be a cat. Talk about unintelligent, talk about, misinformed. or as some people, I just want to be born. This is another one. This is even up on a higher spiritual platform. One lady came to Gurudev once. She was an actress in Europe. And she came to Gurudev and she said, "Oh, Gurudev, in my next life, I just want to be a Bengali brahmachari in the mat." And he looked at her with disgust. And he said, "I don't. I just want to be a gopi." Because the brahmacharis, you have every chance you might fall down. It's not, this is not our goal of life to become a Bengali brahmachari in the mat. It's still a material identification. You see? So we should use a little bit, if we have lesser intelligence, we should use a little bit of that fear to motivate us that really, I don't really want to become a dog in my next life. You know what I mean? I may not have to see Yamaraj, but I'd rather not be a dog in my next life. Really. And this is reality. Reincarnation is truth. The soul is eternal. It goes from body to body, being carried by the mind. The mind is carrying us from body to body due to our karma, our desires. And as a devotee, if we are thinking of a dog, our beloved friend, the dog, at the end of life, you just may have to take that birth. You may not, but you may. So we should, and that's the story of Maharaj Bharat. It's there to teach us. So anyhow, Anartha Nivritti ki jai. It only comes by sadhu sangha, Krishna's mercy. And we want Sri Nam to become happy with us so that she bestows her mercy on us so that we can go up. We can actually attain prem. We can attain our prem seva to Radha and Krishna. Jai ho, Jai ho. Madhurya Kadambini, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai. Haribol.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada,
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva,
Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva.
Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna,
Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol,
Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Vanchakalpatarishta Kripa Sindhubhye Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Guru Garanga Ki Jai Ho.